We're going to call to order the Effingham County Board of Commissioners special call meeting this 10:30. Apologize for the lateness. All these commissioners do have full-time jobs, and we are currently at quorum, so we can go ahead and begin this August 18th, 2020. We have an agenda before us. We'll ask a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. And the agenda is approved. Are we on telephone as well?
Yes, sir.
Welcome all those who are with us on the teleconference side of it as well. Appreciate the public being here. We'll open the public hearing in just a moment. And if you have some comments, you'll be asked you to come to the mic and state your name and any comments that you'd like to make. Keep them 2 to 3 minutes. That's helpful so that others can have a chance to speak as well to any item. All the items on this agenda, which is just the one for this public hearing, which is the tax millage, is on the digest. And hopefully you've had a chance to review that and make the comments that you'd like to make at that time. With that, we're going to move to our item number 1 under new business, which is a public hearing for the adoption of the 2020 to 21 millage. And so I'm going to open that public hearing, and I'll turn it over to our staff if there's any additional opening comments.
Okay. Let me apologize.
Yeah, my computer turned off too. I had to turn it back on. It idled out.
Let me get my, it's going to take me a second. Let me get my book. I was going to read off the screen, but it appears that my internet's down. So, just take me 1 second.
Okay. We are waiting on our manager. I might go ahead and bring up a couple items that might be of interest to the public, and then we'll open up for the floor some comments after the manager makes his comments. You'll notice we have a proposed tax increase in the advertisement. It showed the millage rate for the county M&O was going from 6.558 to 7.528. You mind if I make some comments while you put yourself together?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. That's what they came up with in the press, that we have a 16% tax increase, going from 6.558 to 7.528. Although that is inaccurate on our county maintenance M&O millage rate, we have actually 3 millage rates if you're in an unincorporated area. For example, who here today is from the unincorporated area, not inside the city limits? Anyone? Just kind of. And who is from the inside the city limits? And what city are you from? Springfield? Okay. I'll come back to that in a minute. So we have in this county a service delivery agreement between the cities and the county where we give a tax rollback to the cities for roads and recreation. The last 2 years, the millage rate for roads and recreation rollback was too high to the cities. There are certain revenues that we are allowed to use that makes a more equitable share of all the cost of our roads and recreation among all our constituents. So if you live in the unincorporated area, you do not have an increase in taxes today. There is an increase in the M&O, but there's a decrease in the roads and recreation and in the hospital. So at the end of the day, last year, the total millage that we're responsible for, and we're not talking about the school or the IDA, I don't think theirs is changing either. I think the school might even be giving a
Small rollback.
Small rollback, so those should go down as well. But what we control as a county commission, the M&O, the roads, the recreation, and the hospital, is still 10.618 total millage for this year. But the state only looks at the M&O, that one that's countywide, and if that increases, they make you report it as a tax increase. So we have reapportioned the tax so that we're collecting a little more from the cities because they had too big of a rollback that hurt the unincorporated. You carry more of the burden than you should have for road and recreation. We've adjusted, we can't go back and change that for the cities, but we're adjusting it for this year. So just as a matter of reference, if you're in the unincorporated area, you will not have a tax millage increase. There was about a 1.65 evaluation increase in the properties countywide. Commercial real estate, if you take PT 32, take the assessed value of our assessor has increased divided by the total in 2019, it comes out to 1.65. So you could have a tax increase. I calculated a $150,000 house with a 40% assessed value. It'd be about $10 on the taxes we control. That'd be about the cost increase on your taxes for what we control. Service costs have gone up, according to the COLA, around 1.6 nationwide. And so we're about in line with the COLA as far as the actual dollar increase to the taxes. So that's where we are on the proposed millage this year. And after the public hearing, with your comments, we're going to consider approving the 7.528 new millage rate over the 6.558. But we're also going to approve reducing the road millage from 1.149 that if you unincorporated pay last year, this year will be only 0.822. And if you paid recreation last year, and you did if you unincorporated, it's 0.934. This year it'll be 0.558, so it's going down by almost 0.5%. And the hospital millage was 1.97, almost 2. It's going down to 1.7. Once again, at the end of the day, unincorporated area, your total millage rate was 10.618 in 2019. It'll be 2.618 in 2020. So the total millage will not change. Yeah.
Good. So on an annual basis, the Board of Tax Assessors is required to review the assessed value of all property to determine what is determined the rollback rate for the millage that is charged for maintenance operations for the county. And so based on that rate, which is only one portion of your tax bill, or one line of your tax bill of what the county is responsible for charging, that was increased from 6.558 to 7.528. That portion resulted in an increase of 16.41%. The county also charges line items for roads, recreation, and hospital. The roads, recreation has been reduced from 1.149 to 0.822. Recreation has been reduced from 0.934 mils to 0.558, and the hospital has been reduced from 1.977 to 1.70. Overall, the millage that the county is responsible for charging remains unchanged from 2019 and 2018 at 10.618 mils for 2020. Because we roll back what we charge to municipalities, the city of Springfield residents will be charged by the county millage rate of 9.238, and Guyton 9.238, and Rankin 9.238. That is simply because we do not charge the millage rate on those on the municipalities for roads and rec. We roll that back essentially as a discount to the municipalities for providing that service. But that is a unincorporated county, unchanged. Springfield and Guyton will see a small reduction. Rankin will see, because of the rollback rate was not as high, will see a small increase, but they will each be charged, each municipality be charged 9.238 versus the unincorporated, which will be charged 10.618.
So just as a, then I'll open up public hearing to the public, just as a follow-up to that. In our county, which is unique, but I think it's good, we negotiate with our cities to provide some remuneration in the form of rollbacks. There's only like a handful of counties that do that across the state of Georgia. So if you're from Springfield, Guyton, or Lincoln today, we do actually provide a rollback to our cities. I believe it's required by the statutes. There's a lot of court cases going on right now. More counties will follow suit with what we do. Chatham does it, they give a rollback for roads, and others provide these things as well, Hall County, but very few are really responded. So the city taxes continue to be lower than the total unincorporated area. So to live in the city, take out your city taxes, okay, that's going to be added to it. The city has their own taxes, but the taxes we charge, if you live in the city, your taxes will be lower than those who live in the unincorporated area. On those we're going to assess today. So I don't know if this is confusing or a little clearer, but we're here to answer your questions and hear your concerns. And so with that, if there's anyone that'd like to speak to the proposed millage, please come forward and give us your name and ask any question. We want to make sure you understand what we're trying to do for your county. Anyone here today want to speak for or against the millage that we're proposing?
My name's Catherine Jackson. I live on Niche Road. And maybe I'm just a little bit dense, but when you put out there that it's going to, you have asked for a increase of 16.41 and we're paying out 10 now, where exactly is my taxes going to go up?
No, ma'am, not only by the appraised value. See, the state of Georgia, they only control one item on that tax bill, and that's the M&O. That's the one that you charge countywide, okay? And so that went up from the 6.558 to the 7.528. And that calculates to 16%. So they make us advertise that as a tax increase because the countywide did go up. But we offset your taxes for roads and recreation, the roads you drive on that we tax for, we break those out. Some counties don't break those out. That's in their M&O. So there wouldn't be this, if they reapportioned, you never see it. But ours is broke out because we give our cities a break on that. And so that went down by the same amount that the other went up. So that your tax millage rate is still 10.618, same as it was last year, total millage rate.
All right, but you're saying that the state is saying that they're doing it on the appraised?
No, they're making us do it just on the, we call it M&O, maintenance and operations. That's the police, the courts, the fire, the sanitation, all the other things that we do in the county. Okay? It's called the countywide millage rate.
Right.
That's what they monitor. But if we want to go in, for example, if there was an industry, we want to make them fix their roads, we could do a special assessment on their roads and collect it from them. We don't have to comply with the state on that because we're getting it from them. It's their roads, they damaged them, and so forth. So special district taxes that we have that you're paying now for roads and recreation do not have to be monitored for increases or decreases or whatever.
Okay.
I know it's a little confusing, but remember, the total millage rate that you paid last year has not changed. The only thing that the state monitors is the M&O. That went up, but the other taxes that we've been collecting, we went down to offset that so that your total millage rate is still the same.
Still the same, it's not going to go up at all?
Not going to go up at all. If you look at the tax bill.
For the millage. Be careful because
If your property is assessed at a higher value,
Well,
we
who's
don't
going to make
control the
that?
assess, we don't control the assessment.
Who's going to make that that decision?
Board of Assessors.
Board of Assessors.
And they sent you a bill that should have shown you the assessment back in April, so you have a chance to look at it, make sure it's correct and appeal. And if you don't appeal, it becomes law for our area, and then they bring it to us to set a millage based on that.
How do they make an assessment? Do they come out and look at my house?
They do.
I ain't seen May yet. I ain't seen, we've been here 10 years and I haven't seen Stoll come out there yet.
Well,
It's bad, and I think they use market data. I don't, again, that's not in our purview, but
Well, maybe it should be because y'all the one charging the taxes.
We don't assess value, but the state requires us to be independent of the assessment, so that we cannot arbitrarily increase the assessments to get more taxes. So they have their own board, they have their own assessments, and that's why you get a copy of that assessment, so that you can go argue with them or discuss with them, say, hey, this is wrong, I shouldn't be assessed at this high. So
Right.
if you're over
I've done that
assessed-
already.
Yeah, that's between the constituents and that board. We don't control the assessments, and that's by design. You don't want us making the assessments and the taxes.
Right.
So we can only tax what they give us as an assessment.
Okay.
Our involvement is the appointing the members of that board. That's what we do. Once we make that appointment.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, I just want to bring up one thing. I know we advertised the 16%, whatever the increase was, as required by state law. We did know that this was going to result in some confusion. So we attempted to advertise, put a second advertisement in there with the total tax bill that showed it unchanged, but
That did
not
not
everybody
help.
saw that second advertisement.
Well, I didn't see the first one until somebody put it on Facebook.
That's right.
Because I don't get the morning news because it's like worthless. But when you don't see it and then you all of a sudden see something come up on Facebook,
That's right.
that's when everybody wants to know what's going on. We monitor Facebook, we don't monitor the Savannah Morning News.
Sure.
So we need a better way to find out what's going on.
Okay.
Some of the stuff that went out on Facebook, you might call it fake news.
Well, that is true, there's a lot of it, but we didn't understand how come you got 16% off of one city or county information sheet and you got 10% off the other one. So we were wondering where our other 6% is gonna have to go to, because it's not exactly telling me exactly what I'm supposed to be paying.
What's the 10% we're talking about?
No, I think it's just 10 mils,
10.
which is the
Oh,
total,
yeah, yeah.
which is unchanged. So it's 16%, but a net no change. So-
Right, so 16 and 10 is still a big difference. And
Well, no, 16 is the percentage of increase on the one, but the 10 is the meals. They're not even the same numbers. One's in meals, tax per $1,000, the other is a percentage increase. So,
all right,
and there is no percentage increase.
Yeah, we did, trying to get something out, to put it on Facebook, I think late last week, and we tried to get that out.
And we did, we tried to get on social media and try to, give as much information, but, that's what the public hearing's for, too, to solidify that, make sure we're clearly communicating.
Correct. We do have a question from the phone.
Okay?
Go right ahead.
Okay. This is Diane Kowinski, and I live on Kingsley Drive in Dayton. And if there's no change, and, then why is the tax bill going up $50-something? The second part of that is that you reduce, sounds like, the money that you needed to maintain the road, and that you're keeping it at the same millage. But it's a shame that you're taking that out when we've been waiting for over 2 years to have the entrance to our subdivision fixed, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. So you need to have some money to fix the roads.
For clarification, are you within the city of Dayton or unincorporated?
Martha, we're in the unincorporated part of the city. I think we're in the unincorporated. Yeah. We're off of Courthouse Road.
Okay, you're unincorporated.
The road budget did not decrease.
Right.
Just for an answer to concern that we may have reduced the amount of spending on roads, it did.
And I can't hear what you're saying.
Can you hear me now?
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Tim, can you answer that question?
Sure.
She might can hear you better.
Okay, so just so you know, the road's actual budget did not decrease. The millage rate decreased because in the previous year, it's a little complicated, but we do not, the county does, only source of revenue is not property tax. We also get taxes collected from what's called the local option sales tax, which is a 1% sales tax countywide, which is used to offset your property tax. So when we took, what we did was we are allocating some of those funds towards roads, which we haven't done in previous years. And that is why the millage rate of the roads went down. The budget didn't go down. We're still spending the same year over year. Just the millage rate went down. I know it's a little complicated, but it's I just want to confirm that we aren't reducing what we're trying to do on
And we have
roads.
actually probably increased our road budget, I would imagine.
Okay, so why is it taking so long to get the road fixed then? Do you not have
It's-
adequate money to fix the road?
I have to look at your particular road, and I just don't have that information on me. I don't know whether it's an ash road, a dirt road, asphalt road, or what. So if you provide me that information here,
It's asphalt.
okay, and the name of the road is?
Kingsley Drive South.
Okay. And I can look at that and get back to you. If, the easiest way, since you're not here, I'm gonna have to get your phone number, but if you want to call back, I can give you my phone number.
Okay, I'll call you back. What's your phone number?
754?
2111? What was it, 654?
754.
754. It's 912-754-2111, and just ask for the county manager.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
my pleasure.
And then if it's the same, if we're not increasing it, then why is there an additional tax of $50 or $60?
Well, if there's I'll say.
The only way that there would be an addition to your tax bill is if your assessed value went up year over year. We don't control that. That's done by the Board of Assessors, and they're the ones who send out that notice to you. So if there's an increase in your tax bill, that's the only thing I can assume that's the cause of it.
Ask her to get a copy of that and email it to you.
And if you want, when you call me up, I can actually review that for you as well.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Any other questions or comments from the public?
Yeah, just real quick, Chris Wood, 1800 Goshen Road. I appreciate you putting everything together, so we understand obviously now the millage rate will end up being the same. My question really is though, there's been such growth, you're obviously getting more taxes now from all the additional homes and things, and obviously my values along with, I think that's what everyone's dealing with, is our assessed value is continuing to rise, and so we are paying more in taxes. So has the total amount of income that you're receiving, is at some point, are we reaching the point where we can reduce the millage rate because we're receiving so much from a larger tax base, I guess is what my question
Yeah,
would be.
if I could repeat the question, based on the growth in our community, is there a point where we'd be able to reduce the millage based on the growth that we have?
Right, because I know the amount of subdivisions and houses that are getting put in, even around me, I mean, they're paying on top of whatever, you know, and I'm sure the builder's responsible to put in all the services, so that shouldn't be a cost to the county and stuff,
Sure, Mr.
so.
Wood. Let me give you a couple of items that might help with that and where we might be. First of all, in 2009, everybody knows there was a crash in our community of real estate values. Matter of fact, our digest in 2009 was 1.76 million, rounded to 1.77 million was billion, total digest. That was our values. At the end of 2012 with the crash, it went down to 1.5. We lost about 25% of our digest in 2012. With the growth that we have in 2018, we finally got just under the digest value we had in 2009. So we were still operating on less tax revenues from 2009 up through 2018. Miraculously enough, not due to me, I've only been on the board 4 years, some of these guys have been on the board, they have not increased the millage rate. And that's an amazing thing. They tightened the belts. Some of the departments got less money, including our sheriff and tax and so forth. We had to do that, and they chose to do that in lieu of increasing the millage rate on people who are already suffering from a depressed market. So just kind of information. Today, we are at, I thought I had those documents with me, but we're at about $2 billion in value in the county total wide. If you pull off the growth from that number, we still have not got the same revenues, do not have the same revenues or the assessments that we had in 2009. So we don't have enough really right now to pay for the growth. And that's one reason we're struggling with our transportation in a rapidly growing community with transportation needs. We need 3 lanes some roads, we need some XLD cells. That's why we are putting before the people a resolution to vote possibly for a T-SPLOS that may answer some of these transportation, in addition to pouring more LOST and SPLOST and other revenues that we have into this, trying not to raise the millage rate to take care of these issues. So when you talk about the residential growth, what does that do to our community? First of all, we just now finally got our values back up to 2009, that's what I'm saying. It's just a little above it. So we're still operating on those revenues that we had back in 2009. Yet we have a much larger county, probably 25 to 30,000 more people. So it's a lot more people than we had back then. Residential growth creates service cost. It does not pay the bills. It helps pay the bills, but for example, to educate a student, local dollars, it's about $3,000. If you had 2 children in school, that's $6,000. You have to have a lot of property to pay $6,000 in taxes. So that's got to be made up. The sheriff, the police, all the safety, fire, these costs go up with residential. We try to supplement that cost to keep the millage down by charging taxes on commercial and industrial, those who don't use that many residential services. So the balance we try to work for here in our planning meetings and zoning meetings is how can we balance the right amount of residential to get the right amount of commercial and industrial that we can take their dollars and reduce the tax for our citizens. So we're looking for jobs in those things, plus increase in value that we can tax, because the industry and the business is not sending anybody to school. They're only sending people to school if they live here, and then they pay property taxes for that, but that's not enough to cover the cost of the services. So I guess the bottom line, my hope is that we can try to keep the millage where it is, because we are a growing community. And if we can get the growth, that will help pay and keep our millage where it's at. And if we can shift some of this cost burden to our industries, that will help as well. So that's why we have a lot of this industrial land around here. People say we got a lot of industrial land. Yeah, but there's not that many on it. You see some growth now, but as these millions of dollars of development come in and they are taxed, that will keep your mills from going up. And in our surrounding area, it might be good to know, I think there's only 1 county in the 8 counties around us, talking about Chatham, Scriven, Liberty, Bryan, Bullock. There's only 1 lower, I don't know how they do it, there's only 1 lower than our tax base. We have the lowest tax of all these counties around us. So once again, I commend this board and what they've been trying to do in running this place like a business, keep the millage as low as we can keep it and not increase it. And if you go back and look, there was actually a millage decrease back in, I want to say 12. There was actually a small, it was like 0.4, but it's still a decrease 4 or 5 years ago. But if we can keep it right here, would be the goal right now. Does that answer your question, Mr. Wood?
Mr. Chairman, I'll add to that. It really comes down to the type of growth. The residential is not the type of growth that's going to reduce taxes. It's going to be the commercial and industrial. And it's a balancing act. We have 2 hearings tonight on rezonings that are highly contested to rezone commercial and industrial to create more industry. So, it's just a balancing act for us.
These are the birth pains of a very rapidly growing community. One statistic we saw that the Board of Education gave us in a private study is that we could have as many as 100,000 people in the next 10 years. When I moved here, there was 12,000. So,
Mr. Chairman, you didn't mention, I want to kind of explain a little more on why we do not charge for roads and rec and all in the cities. And it's very, very confusing. And I don't know the year, but the Georgia General Assembly, I know it's been at least 20 years ago, created House Bill 489, Service Delivery Strategy Act. And but to boil it down, the law says a county cannot charge for roads, recreation, and there's some other services that a city may provide. So if a city has their own roads, which our cities have their own roads, the city has their own recreation department, City of Rankin does, the county cannot levy a millage for those services for residents inside the city. So we have to roll that back. We can't charge that. In the past, what we have done is levy a flat millage and literally write large sums of checks back to the city governments and give it to them. And it was something I was very big on, and we're finally able to change that where we simply don't levy that tax. It stays with the residents. Now, if the city wants to levy that tax to get it, they have that right. But that's why there's a different millage rate in the cities than in the unincorporated county. I know it's confusing, but it's state law.
Yeah, and quite simply, I would say that if we tax countywide for roads, we would need to take some of that money and put it back into the cities to help them with their roads. And we used to by check. Now we don't do that, we just roll it back. We didn't feel like we need to be taxing for the cities. They want to tax, they can tax.
And I will say we can, the only way that those millages can be levied by the county inside the cities are by a separate agreement. And there was one for the residents of Rankin. The city government of Rankin entered into an agreement where we would levy to build a new roundabout at Fort Howard Road. So city of Rankin is paying a portion of that, the unincorporated residents are paying a portion of that, because it's right on the line, it affects everybody. So, and that should be, when does that millage end and come off?
This is the last year.
This is the last year of that, and so if you, does it say actually roundabout on the tax
It
bill?
says Fort Howard.
Does it say Fort Howard?
Yeah, Rankin Fort
Well, if
Howard.
anyone that lives in the city of Rankin will see that. This will be the last year that you see that millage on the tax bill.
And that's around 1.6 something, and that will go away. So they'll see a substantial decrease if you're from Rankin in 2021. That will go away. So I hope you see that we love this county. We're trying to keep your millage rate as low as possible because I pay the same millage rate you pay, and I don't want it to go up either. And I think that's quite an achievement if you look over not only having the lowest millage of 8 counties around except for one county, having it be level pretty much for the last, since 2008, is pretty good. Because a lot of folks have increased their millage rates, and we have not. And hopefully we can continue to do that, which is good business. Sure.
My name's Casey Ivey, and I probably started some of this, but when you have, every year it seems like our taxes, the millage rate will go down and we're told it's the same. But then the property value goes up. Mine went up $30,000 in 1 year. I live in the country on 10 acres, didn't build anything. So my taxes are going up, and I think that's what we're talking about. Y'all keep saying, oh, we're doing a good job, we can't do any better. But I don't believe that. I believe there's a way that we should be able to lower the community's taxes. At least let us know what's going on. When you put a blast on the county webpage saying it's going up 16.41%, nothing was put out letting us know what was going on until Friday afternoon.
Well, actually,
You know-
I hear you, and I appreciate that. We actually did put it out, but it just didn't get, people didn't see it. It was in the paper. I'll assume it'd be on our website. Is it on our website?
It wasn't on the Facebook County Commissioners, because I make sure to look beforehand.
I think that was posted Friday.
That one might be posted Friday.
It was
Yeah.
posted
But
Friday.
we actually did put in the paper.
We put it in the paper in the previous week. We put it on we did put it on, try and get it out as quickly as we could on social media. Once we saw the reaction from
Right.
the advertisement. But we
Rightfully
tried to
so,
get it out.
honestly, rightfully so.
Well, we'll own that. I apologize. We didn't want to upset anybody. We were trying to get ahead of it, but we didn't do a good job of that. So.
Well, and nobody really reads the paper, which I love it, and I hope they keep doing it, but social media has become the way to go.
Yeah.
I mean-
The Effingham Herald is a legal organ, so that's where we legally have to put it. But
I would
not
suggest,
that we
yeah.
can't put it other places, obviously.
But I just, I know this probably won't get anything, but it's just when you have, my dad, for instance, he worked all his life. He's 77 years old. He lived on his property. My father actually knows your father and worked with him, Phil.
Oh, really?
And so he's worked all his life to pay for several, he's got it paid for, and the county's taxing him off of it. It's paid for, and he's being taxed off of it at 77 years old. That's a horrible thing that our seniors are dealing with, we keep told the millage rate ain't going up, and I'm sure it's not, but the values are good. Something needs to give where it at least, even not for me, because I'm good, I'm working, but our seniors are really suffering.
Aren't there some programs through the tax commissioner's office or at 65 something?
Yeah,
Only if they don't make more than $10,000 a year above Social Security, which if you try to do anything with your life, you're gonna have more than $10,000 extra a year. So it's not. And most people, I'm gonna throw this out there, our older generation, I don't know, but most of them don't live in subdivisions. They don't have a 1/4 acre land. They have 5 acres, 10 acres, some of them have farms. They wanna keep it. I wanna keep mine, but I'm looking at 20 years from now, I won't be able to afford to live in Effingham County if it keeps going up with the values the way it is. What it's worth, I just want to say.
no, I appreciate that. I guess what it would be helpful, I don't know if you may have went to the assessor's office to discuss these things with them. And I'm always willing to get involved. My background is a CPA, I understand numbers pretty good, I'd be glad to look at it with you. When I look at the PT 32, which is the values of 2019 and what we've increased the assessments, they only went up countywide 1.65%, which would not calculate to a lot of dollars. So I get confused on what that could be. So I wouldn't mind looking at that if you want to see how does it, a 1.65 increase in our
That's
values
not what's
across the
happening.
board. Yeah, how does that get to thousands of dollars? Now, if you've got 1,000 acres, it's very possible it could go up $1,000, $2,000, you know what I'm saying? But
I have 10.89 acres and it went up $30,000 from 2018 to 19. Now, they did reduce the value of it about 12,000 this year, but then we get the notice about the millage rate. You know what I mean? So
is just a question, people, this might help everybody, is your property with a home and it's homesteaded? And when did you buy?
and it's in Cooper.
And when did you buy the Cooper down? The assessment can go up, but your taxes aren't going to go up because it's in Cooper.
My taxes, in other words, they went up. You'd have to look at the thing, but they did go up.
I'd be happy to look at it with you, but if you owned your house before January 1, 2009, anybody here today, there's a Carter Burns exemption that was given by Buddy Carter and John Burns, which I like the exemption. There was one glitch in it nobody saw. But it means if you owned your house prior to January 2009, it was designed to protect the elderly, those who hadn't had their homes, so we cannot pay for the increased cost of services on the backs of people who've been here forever. Your assessment can only go up, and the finance director's here, she can help me if I'm wrong with this, but I think it's the COLA, 3%, or the fair market value, whichever is less. Okay, whichever is less. We had a COLA of 1.6 or so. So that's the most you could go up in any 1 year. And that's designed so that we don't get a 15, 20% increase on a piece of property that was homestead. You gotta have homestead and own it before January 09. And that's why if you owned your house before that, I wouldn't mind looking at with you, make sure the Carter Burns is on there. So once again, if your assessment goes up 30,000, make sure your exemptions didn't go up a bunch. Look at the net assessed value. What did it go up? That's what you want to look at. So if you had a $200,000 house and went to 240, but did with your exemption, did it go from 42 to 44? You see what I'm saying? Because that's what you
The
pay
bill's
taxes
still going
on.
up though, that's the point.
Huh?
The bill's still going up, yeah. If it was
But
2,000, now it's 2,200 or whatever.
Well, it can only go up if the assessed value goes up too, so we want to see why that assessed value went up.
Well, a lot of us might not have the Carter Burns then.
I need you to get up to Mike if you can speak.
Well, a lot of us might be outside of that 2009 window then. I'm sure a lot of people may have moved because if you sell or move or any of that
So
stuff.
you lose your Carter Burns exemption, that's correct.
Yeah, so a lot of us probably have lost that, that benefit, or don't have it. But I was told I have it, but my value still, my tax went up $200 some for this year.
Well, and
Or
that's
for
a
this-
good point. For
Moving
those-
into next year.
Those who
So-
own the homes after 2009, they could have somebody, because there's a lot of homes that can't go up at all because of Carter Burns exemption. So if that home went up 20%, this home can't go up at all, it's gonna bring the curve way down.
Sure, and that's what I was talking about with the net grab though, because like she's going up $200, I've gone up $200, he's gone up $200. Well, if everybody in every home in the county's gone up $200, then you might have got, 1.4 million and now you're at 1.6 million, et cetera. But maybe we need to be taking our fight, or you guys could take it for us to the assessor's office as to, okay, let's ease up on these people with the assessment values, because that's where we're getting hammered, I think, a lot of it.
Once again, I'm behalf of Mr. Woods and you as well. If you want to email me those bills, I can look. Already had some constituents this year. A friends of mine said, "Would you look at this with me?" And I looked at it, made some calls, and looked to see where it's at. Don't mind looking at it at all. Make sure you have all your exemptions on
Well,
there.
my dad, do you mind looking at my dad's?
Absolutely, absolutely. My email's on the website. Shoot me an email, and I'll get back with you. Sure will.
I do want to make a comment about that. And it's the hardest thing personally I have to deal with, because we do need to help the older generation, obviously, and want to. There's certain legal ways we can. But at the end of the day, anybody that gets a break from their taxes, the burden's placed on everybody else. So we have to be careful with that, because if we give, those over 70 or whatever the number is, if we reduce their taxes by a considerable amount, the burden doesn't go away. If the cost of government, the cost of living, everything's going up. From insurance to county pay. I know. I mean, everything, and it happens here, and it's unavoidable. But that burden is shifted to the others, and it's a tough gig, trying to be fair without overburdening another age bracket. It's just tough.
Well,
But I get it. I honestly.
thank you for that. And I guess also, how could that be brought up for our senior citizens? How could we start something where maybe they pay a flat tax and theirs doesn't go up,
Yeah, as long as
to manage their budget.
And I'm okay, personally, as a taxpayer, I'm okay with that.
I am too.
And we would need to educate, because you may find there are a lot that don't agree with that.
Right.
But
is there a way-
education process. But again, I don't know, legally, can we just, do that? There are certain legalities to tax reductions.
Well, what would be the way to start that conversation? Is there a way to start the community and the county maybe looking at that to?
Mr. Chairman, do you have any input on that? I don't know. I don't know tax law. We have a county attorney that helps us through that, to make sure.
I think we could get some constituents to maybe plan a meeting with our manager down the road and myself, and we can look at it. But there are a lot of things, that's why we'd have that meeting to talk to constituents, see what we could reasonably do. But one of the issues would be, as we know, transportation is a big issue for us. In a rapidly growing county where you got more cars on the highway, we need more decel, XL lanes. If we take a large portion, we have a large portion of our community that is over 65. I'm one of them. And if we don't pay a little increase with our taxes, then we're going to really damage our ability to address all these roads that need to be addressed. That even if you're 65, like myself, I drive them at 70. So there's just a lot of services, and as we grow, we'll make sure we have additional deputies, because we have one of the safest communities. Remember, I know Walnut, we're one of the safest communities in the state of Georgia.
But I would say with all the growth should compensate for the taxes.
I think if we can do, this board is working with our IDA and our school and so forth to plan. I just met with the IDA this week, and we're constantly looking at how can we balance those things, as I said before. If we can get the industry and the sales tax up, those things help us, could lower your millage rate. Because if you take an industry that brings in $400 million of investment, or maybe even a lot more, that's more investment than in 1,000 probably home subdivision, and they don't bring the services. We don't have to have any more teachers, any more deputies. Probably there's only 70 or 80 employees at this place and 60 here. It's easy to police that. We don't have to increase much. Follow me? Yet we get more taxes, and that's how we can shift that to lower the burden for everybody, including our area. Those are things we're working on and planning. making sure we don't just become a bedroom community. You've heard that Effingham's a bedroom community. But that means everybody wants to live here. And why? Because we do have the lowest taxes around. We have the safest community, the best schools. I mean, we have a great county here. I love it. That's why I moved here. But if we stay a bedroom community and do not get the commercial that we need and some industrial, then we just have to be willing to pay for those services out of our pockets. I want to get that balance where we can keep a nice community, one we want to live in, but yet have that burden shared with more the other side. So that's what we're working on.
Speaking of your bedroom community, it's kind of hard to have a bedroom community when you put a warehouse right beside the subdivision. Is there any way that you can figure that out, that you don't have the warehousing right next to your elementary school or your warehousing right next to your subdivisions where people are supposed to be able to sleep at night, but you can't because of the beep, 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 beep of the
We have
little
a
trucks
public
all
hearing
night?
tonight on that, so I'm going to stick this one to the tax millage for now, but I'm sure it'll be enjoyable public hearing night if you want to come
I'll be
back and
here.
make your comments. So we'll save that one for tonight.
All right, and how about, y'all talking about the roads as well? There's a lot of roads in Effingham County that are in terrible shape.
And we are aware, we have prioritized, we've got on a schedule. And once again, the T-Splosh is what we're asking the people to decide if they want us to go ahead and do those now, or do we want to do them over the next 20 years. We can do a lot of those road improvements right now in the next 3 to 5 years if the T-Splosh passes, but it'll be up to the constituents to decide if they want to move forward a little more rapidly.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Ariel Beasley. I'm a first-time homeowner. We moved from Bullitt County to Effingham, and I didn't know we could express concerns. So thank you guys for stepping up first. My taxes have gone up $700 in 2 years, and it's just crazy because like I hear about all of our friends in Bullitt County and like what they pay for taxes and everything, and then what we pay, and it's like such a crazy difference. And I was speaking with my mom actually. She lives in Cobb County, which is one of like the most expensive counties in Atlanta. And she only pays $200 a year more than me for a $450,000 house. And she lives right down the road from the Braves Stadium. So she's paying taxes for the Braves Stadium. And her and I were having a conversation. I went through and did a whole SPSS statistical analysis on like the values of homes similar to mine. It sounds like my problem's more with the Board of Assessors. And I filed a thing and they denied it. So I'm waiting on my hearing, but it's just crazy that like I went through and ran the numbers and like it doesn't make any sense what they're trying to say the value of my home is and why am I paying. My mom's house is $450,000. My house is $140,000 and I'm paying almost the same amount of taxes that she's paying to help build a Braves Stadium. So to me it's just kind of crazy. Like I don't know where my money's going, I guess. And I'm still new to all this, so I'm learning about how taxes work and everything. But I do have a background in research and statistical analysis. So it's just confusing to me how my taxes went up $700 in 2 years.
Yeah, I'd have to see that to see how a $140,000 house can go up $700.
I got all my papers. I went through and made a whole spreadsheet. Like I had like my professors from my master's read that letter I sent to the Board of Assessors, and they're like, if they say no to this, they're crazy. And they surely did. And I was like, I don't know how, because I went through, like, used my software and everything, ran numbers. I went through and found all the houses with the same acreage, same
When did you buy your house?
everything. 2018.
2018.
Yep. And in the last 2 years, it was a 55% value increase on my home from the time that I purchased it in 2018, August 15th.
55% more than what you paid for.
Yes, 55% value
Yeah, I'd
increase.
be willing to look at that because that.
I have it all right here. I brought it all.
Yeah, 'cause I agree, that sounds crazy.
I went through and did all the
If you
math.
purchase a house,
That sounds like a clerical error, a typo or something.
No, it went up. The first year
let
was
me look at
50.
it, because of talking about it without seeing it, I can't help you with that, but I would
Yeah.
love to look at it, because what you purchased the house for is comparable to what the house is worth. And so I'd have to look and see. Even the state of Georgia governs how much the assessor can increase a house. It's across the whole county. We have when they look at the houses that are sold and bought in the area, which is reported, then the assessor cannot create a value that creates assessed value higher than 40% of what the state knows is what it's selling for in that area. So they even have some guidelines on it,
Yeah.
which should make what you're telling me impossible. But I believe you. I just want to look at it and see what the issues are there. So if you would please, if you got it with you, hang on after this meeting, and I'll see if I can't look at it and see if it makes sense of it.
And the 55 is like total over the 2 years. It was 51 the first year. So from 2018 to 2019, it was a 51% value increase. And then it was 4% for this year. So it went up $120 for this year. And then the previous year, it went from $1,300 to $1,900.
You have homestead exemption?
And I had
You know,
homestead exemption, and I went through because it was an elderly person that had the house before us, so I went through and like renewed the stuff that she had on it because they told us for the first year that we could do that, so I went through and did all of that as
We're getting a
well.
little bit off of the millage increase, but let me address this with you. If you bought your house in 2018, okay, then the assessed value January 1 would have been the person selling it to you. That's what the assessed value was on there. When the house is purchased, it automatically is going to get a new value. So if that value at 19 should reflect, it may be 51,000, but it should reflect what you pay for it. So compared it to 18, it could go up that much. So if the digest had it at 100, but you paid 150 for it, it's going to get a $50,000 increase in 19. So that's the first year. And then this year, you're saying 51, 50, yeah. So that's very possible, because you can't argue that my house is not worth what I paid for it. So 18 would have been a lot lower, and if you pay 50,000 more that was on the digest at that time, that's going to be the assessed value. Follow me?
Yeah.
So I need to look at it and see if that was true. There's not much we can do. That's the correct value.
Gotcha.
Okay. Let's look at it, make sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your input.
In regards to Cobb County, I think it would be interesting to see the percentage of the tax revenues in the county that come from sales tax versus property tax. That may bolster that why sales tax is important.
Yeah. I'm not sure how or
I'm
why,
gonna look.
but it
I'm
was
curious now.
it was crazy that my mom's house is $450,000 and she's paying the same taxes almost as
The
me.
sheer amount of sales tax generated in Cobb
I'd have to
County.
see her tax bill and your tax bill.
Yeah.
I believe what you're saying, but there's something missing in that
Yeah.
analogy. A $140,000 house in any county in this area compared to $450, there's going to be a lot more taxes on the $450.
Yeah, which I know they have more residents and things like that, and that makes a difference too, but it was just absolutely insane to see that our bill was like very close.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
It's a tax rate.
But thank you.
Thank you.
For unincorporated, it's the same M&O millage as ours, but schools might be.
Well, no, that's okay. If it's the same, a $400,000 house has got to have more taxes than around 40 if the M&O maintenance millage is the same.
If they're an unincorporated, their millage is maybe 1.5 mills lower than ours in Cobb County versus Effingham County. They're at 8.46, we're at 2 mills, 10.61.
It still wouldn't justify that. But anyway, that's a little off topic, but I want to look at that with you and see if I can help you with it, okay? Anything related to the millage, I need to bring this to a close. These guys are going to get back to work. I'll make sure you answer your question related to the millage. All right, with that, I'm going to close the public hearing and see if there's any other comments or discussion from the board. If there are none, I'll ask for a motion to approve. Is it a resolution? Is this a resolution?
No, sir, we're not approving
Public hearing.
anything, we're just holding the.
Just a hearing, got to be tonight or later?
The
Okay.
second public hearing will be tonight at 7.
And then we'll make a motion, okay.
No, sir.
So we're not going to vote on anything tonight now? Okay, so we're closing the public hearing. Is there any other business before the commission today? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Floyd to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And we are adjourned. Thank you for your time.